Hi, I'm Neil Hermes and welcome to my weekly bird wrap where I've got three really good stories for you this week. One is about Galápagos Finches and how evolution is occurring even today. My second story is about birdwatchers who are also celebrities. And my last story is about DNA testing zoo air. That's right, the air at the zoo. My first story this week is about the Galápagos and evolution in finches. Now, you may say, well, that's an old story because Charles Darwin went there in the 1800s and he developed his ideas about evolution during his famous trip around the world. And the Galápagos finches were one of these species or groups of species, there's about 18 in the group, that influenced the way he thought about how evolution occurred, and of course has changed our whole understanding of how organisms change over time. This is really important in today's world because we're all struggling with the idea that the COVID virus is changing all the time, and we all want to be a bit more familiar with about how evolution occurs. And this work in Galápagos is giving us some fascinating insights. What's been done by some Australian researchers is they've looked at two species of finch that have been under attack by an avian vampire fly, an introduced insect, which causes terrible diseases in the nestlings of these Darwin finches. And what's happened is two species of finches are now hybridizing, the birds are hybridizing, and the hybrid birds are now resistant to the fly. And this shows you how when an organism is attacked or a population is attacked by some new factor, like a disease, like a change of climate or whatever, they can then adapt. And in this case, two species are hybridizing to create that protection that they need. So this fascinating work being done out of Flinders University in Australia on the Galápagos is giving us fascinating new insights into how evolution is occurring even today. So my next story is about celebrity birdwatchers. Celebrity birdwatchers are people that we know from other fields of endeavour, but also happen to be birdwatchers. And there's some pretty famous examples amongst them. One of the most famous, a gentleman who died only last year, Prince Philip, he was a famous birdwatcher. And he wrote a book about birds and birdwatching back in the 1960s when he travelled to the Antarctic and took a lot of photographs. People may not know that Jimmy Carter, the 39th President of the United States, and who'll be 98 years of age this year, he's a bird watcher and he's been to 25 countries watching birds, and it's even said that when he was negotiating peace treaties in the Middle East, he would duck away to watch some birds down on the waddies around the camps where they were staying. So famous politicians and royalty are bird watchers, but in the UK, quite a number of actors and comedians are also bird watchers. People like Bill Bailey, people like Bill Oddie. People like Paul McCartney is said to be a bird watcher. I was fascinated to see that Trudy Goodwin, who many of you may know as Sergeant June Ackland from The Bill, she's actually an active bird watcher. And Phil Liggett, the voice of the Tour de France, he's also a famous bird watcher. It has been suggested that people like Albert Einstein and Frank D. Roosevelt were also keen bird watchers, but I'm not so sure when people suggest people like Mick Jagger and Fidel Castro and whether or not their interest in birds was real. One of the strange ones that's on the list, and people may look at a second time, is Jeremy Clarkson. Now, Jeremy Clarkson is known as a real revhead, and he loves cars, and you'd think he perhaps doesn't like birds as much, but Jeremy Clarkson has said that in a choice between a peregrine falcon and a Porsche, he'd have difficulty choosing, but he'd probably go down on the side of the fast car. So these are many celebrity bird watchers, and they do write books about it, and they do trips about these things. So watch out for our celebrity bird watchers. And I'm thankful to the Lower Bruckland Wildlife Gardens and Nature Reserve for posting this list. Check out their website because they have interesting information about other bird watchers. People like famous pop stars and singers that I've never heard of, but perhaps you have. So check out that story online. So my last story today is about zoo DNA. Now, you might say, what's this got to do with birds? Well, one of the challenges we have in bird study is to try and go into an environment and understand what birds are there, what the populations are like and how they're interacting with one another. And a lot of the work can be very invasive. But there's a piece of research that's just been done, which is amazing. It may give us whole new techniques for researching birds in the wild. What these researchers have done, based in Toronto and in London and in Copenhagen, is they've tested the DNA in the air at a zoo. Now you might think, how much DNA can there possibly be in the air? Well, we all know with COVID that's happening at the moment that people are testing water to find fragments of the COVID virus. If you can identify small fragments of an organism, be it in water, be it in the air, be it in the soil, you can tell what species it is. So what these researchers did is they set up a little fan and they blew some air into a little filter in the middle of a zoo, and they took the material back to a lab and analysed to see what DNA they could detect. And fascinatingly, they were able to detect all the species of animals that lived at that zoo. Now, the reason they did it at a zoo and not a farm is if you found out that there was cows in a farm, you wouldn't know if the cow was 1,000 kilometres away or it was someone's lunch. But in a zoo, if you found tiger DNA in a sample, you know it's only come from the tiger in that zoo. So this is pretty categoric evidence of the fact that they can tell what species are in a place just by testing the air. And fascinatingly, not only were they able to tell what animals were in the zoo, but they were able to tell what species of fish were being fed to some of the animals because the DNA of the fish was in the air as well. So we're finding this amazing new way, these amazing new ways of detecting animals in the wild. And there are techniques now for detecting things like rare owls by tracking down the scents of their scats in the bush and using drones and other things. But now we have this amazing potential new tool, and that is using DNA from the air, as has been demonstrated by recent research from zoos in Europe and the UK. So thanks for watching the wrap today. Don't forget, check out other stories on neilhermes.com.au. If you're thinking about going on a trip to look at some birds or to explore the country around you, have a look at the trips I'm organising for this year. And in the meantime, happy birding.